All right, guys, now we're going to talk about stance, okay? Stance for striking is very important. Whether you're kickboxing or boxing, you have to start somewhere, okay? So I'm going to bring Sophia as an example. So Sophia stands as an orthodox fighter or striker, meaning she's right-handed, okay? Which typically means you're going to stand with your left foot forward and your right foot back. Now, stance is important, but there's also a lot of details here because there's not a perfect stance. For Muay Thai, and especially for MMA, you want to have a little bit of a wider stance. If you're too narrow, you're going to expose your lead leg to kicks, okay, like a traditional boxer. So we like to open up our hips a little bit, okay? We always like to have our lead foot pointing forward if we can, okay? We don't want to have our lead foot turning in. If we turn our lead foot in, we're going to expose that lead leg for kicks, knees. All right, so Sophia has a nice, relatively wide stance, not too wide to where her chest is being exposed, but just wide enough to where she has a lot of mobility and she's able to kick, she's able to circle, and she can shoot if she wanted to. The next thing you see of Sophia is, Sophia can drop her hands real quick, is Sophia's then going to look to bring the right hand up next. So in the very beginning as a fundamental striker, I like to just break everything down. The first thing you see is Sophia's elbow is pretty close to her chest and to her ribs, which is very important. This is going to cover the body shots, cover shots to the lower half of the body. The right hand is also not on the mouth, a very common mistake for beginners, putting the right hand close to the mouth as you're trying to guard. What that's going to do is expose the side of your head and the chin. So I like to always keep that right hand glued to the chin, okay? Keep the right elbow in nice and tight, and always use that as a gauge of where I'm at, okay? The left hand, you can be a little bit more, I'd say loose with. You can bring the left hand up, but it doesn't necessarily have to be glued directly onto the chin. For this, you can leave it out a little bit because your jab and your lead hand can always be your range finder, okay? So Sophia here has a relatively good stance. She's got a slight bend in her knees, okay? She's got her elbows in relatively tight. Her lead shoulder's pushing forward a little bit, but she's not, again, too wide or too narrow. So once we find like a good stance we feel comfortable with, I always tell people to just kind of take some steps around, okay? Move around a little bit. So for example, Sophia is always going to lead with the leg in the direction she's going to go. So Sophia goes to the left leg's going to move first, the right leg's going to follow. Her feet are never going to cross and they're never going to touch, all right? She's going to come back in the other direction to the right and she's going to end up right back in the same position that she started in. If she goes forward, she'll step forward. And notice that every step is the same, okay? And she will gauge that as she goes. She goes back, everything stays the same, okay? So as a beginner, some key things, thank you Sophia, that you need to focus on with your stance is just getting comfortable, right? Finding something that works. Finding a stance that's not too sideways, too narrow, but not too wide, okay? So for example, a bad stance, okay? Too narrow. Exposing the leg, when you move around, you're going to feel very off balance. Too wide, okay? Your shoulder blades are very wide, your chest is exposed, your head is exposed to your target, all right? At the same time, you don't need to be so tight that your hands are glued to your face. And the reason why is this is not boxing. For striking, for MMA or Muay Thai kickboxing, you need to have range to be able to feel your opponent, to be able to parry punches, to be able to catch punches, catch kicks, etc. So always keep a slight bend in those knees, keep those hands up relatively high, and be willing to move in your stance without losing your stance, okay?